Were empires built on whispers of rebellion and the scent of looted gold? Did the rise of Rome truly hinge on the simmering discontent of its frontiers? Forget dusty tomes and academic debates, let's unravel a story far wilder than any history book dares to tell. It's a tale of shifting alliances, brutal raids, and the slow, grinding birth of a world dominated by shadows and steel. Picture this, the year is 367. A chill wind whips across the Danube, carrying the scent of pine and something far more primal, the musk of 1,000 horses. Athanaric, a man carved from granite and hardened by a lifetime of skirmishes, surveys his domain. He isn't a king, not in the Roman sense. He's a judge, a leader of the Tervingi, a tribe clinging to the wild, untamed lands north of the Roman frontier. Valens, the Eastern emperor, wants a piece of Athanaric's territory, a neat little slice of Moldavia and Wallachia. But Athanaric, a veteran of countless border clashes, isn't about to surrender. He's fought Rome before and he's won. He's negotiated a treaty, a grudging agreement that leaves him with a sliver of independence, a defiant spark in the face of Roman ambition. Now, fast forward 20 years. The Rhine is a river of blood and broken promises. The Alemanni, a chaotic knot of warring tribes, are tearing at the edges of Roman Gaul. Think of them as the ultimate teenage rebellion, a constant, irritating buzz of raids and petty grievances. Their kings, like Chnodomarius, aren't interested in diplomacy. They crave prestige, they crave wealth, and they find it in the chaos they sow. In 357, Emperor Julian, a man obsessed with restoring Roman glory, arrives in Strasbourg, determined to crush this rebellion. He's met by Chnodomarius, a figure of terrifying charisma and a retinue of 300 warriors. The battle is short, brutal, and decisive. Chnodomarius falls, his ambitions shattered, his name forever etched in the annals of Roman defeat. But here's the twist, this isn't just about a single, isolated skirmish. It's about a pattern, a slow, deliberate dance of power and resistance. The Romans, for all their legions and aqueducts, are constantly battling to hold onto their borders. The Germanic tribes aren't simply attacking, they're responding. They're taking advantage of Roman overextension, of the empire's vastness and its inability to control every inch of its territory. Ammianus Marcellinus, a Roman historian documenting this era, paints a vivid picture. 14 years out of 24, the Rhine frontier is a maelstrom of Alemanni raids. It's a constant drain on Roman resources, a simmering resentment that feeds the flames of rebellion. Let's jump ahead to the 406 invasion. Imagine a scene ripped from a nightmare. A wave of Germanic tribes, the Alans, the Rugii, the Suebi, pours across the border, a tide of desperate refugees and seasoned warriors. This isn't a coordinated attack, it's a panicked exodus, a desperate scramble for survival in the face of the Huns. The Huns, led by Attila, are a terrifying force, a nomadic behemoth sweeping across Europe, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The Romans, already stretched thin, are utterly unprepared. The invasion of 406 isn't a single event, it's a symptom of a deeper malaise, a consequence of decades of instability and neglect. Now, let's talk about wealth. Forget heroic battles and glorious victories. The real currency of this era isn't gold, it's opportunity. The frontier provinces, constantly under threat, become surprisingly prosperous. Think of it as a black market fueled by fear and desperation. Raiders aren't just stealing livestock, they're plundering Roman villas, seizing grain, and acquiring anything of value. Ammianus Marcellinus describes this phenomenon with chilling precision. Rich pickings were available to those who could organize successful raids. It's a perverse incentive, a twisted logic that drives the cycle of violence, and that's where Aetius comes in. This man isn't a king, he's a general, a master strategist, a shadowy figure operating behind the scenes of the Western Roman court. He recognizes the threat posed by the Huns and the Germanic tribes, and crucially, he realizes that Rome can't fight this war alone. He turns to an unlikely ally, Attila himself. It's a desperate gamble, a pact with the devil, but it's the only way to secure the survival of the empire. But here's the rub: Rome's diplomacy isn't about trust, it's about leverage. The Romans offer gifts, annual tributes, trading privileges to these Germanic leaders, buying their loyalty, manipulating their ambitions. It's a delicate game, a constant balancing act. The Alemanni, for example, are constantly vying for power, and their kings, like Macrinus, are prone to impulsive expansionism. One moment they're paying Rome to keep the peace, the next, they're launching raids on their neighbors, fueled by greed and ambition. The Romans use this volatility to their advantage, playing one tribe against another, keeping everyone on a tight leash. Let's not forget the weapons. Thousands of Roman swords, shields, and spears are unearthed in Danish bogs, a testament to the empire's vast military machine and its surprisingly widespread influence. These aren't just Roman weapons, they're tools of war, symbols of power, and instruments of destruction. They're being used by Germanic warriors, bolstering their strength and extending their reach. It's a subtle but crucial element of the story. Rome isn't just fighting a war on its borders, it's inadvertently equipping its enemies. The rise of larger, more organized Germanic coalitions is a direct consequence of this dynamic. Smaller, isolated tribes can't compete with the combined might of a larger force. The logic is simple: the bigger the raiding party, the greater the chance of success. It's a Darwinian struggle for survival, a brutal competition for resources and power. And what about the Huns? They aren't simply invaders, they're a catalyst, a force multiplier that accelerates the decline of the Roman Empire. Attila's campaigns in the 440s and 450s are devastating, shattering Roman armies and exposing the empire's vulnerabilities. His death in 453 doesn't end the threat, it merely creates a power vacuum, a scramble for control among his successors. The story doesn't end with Attila's death. It continues with Dengizich, his son, who launches a final, desperate assault on the empire in 454. But the empire is already crumbling, weakened by internal divisions, economic woes, and the constant pressure from its neighbors. The Western Roman Empire is a house of cards, waiting for the slightest breeze to bring it crashing down. Consider the figure of Aetius, a Roman general who, after being murdered in 462, seizes control of a Roman province on the Rhine frontier. He establishes an independent fiefdom, a miniature state that persists for decades, defying the authority of Constantinople. This isn't a heroic act of resistance, it's a symptom of the empire's disintegration, a testament to its inability to maintain control. The final act is a slow, agonizing decline. The Vandals, the Alans, the Burgundians, the Franks, they all carve out their own kingdoms, exploiting the empire's weakness and consolidating their power. The Roman army, once the terror of Europe, is reduced to a shadow of its former self. The empire's infrastructure crumbles, its cities decay, and its institutions collapse. But here's the truly unsettling revelation: Rome didn't fall because of internal corruption or military weakness. It fell because it was too powerful, because its relentless expansionism created a constant stream of enemies, because it failed to recognize the limits of its own control. The seeds of its destruction were sown in the very act of conquest, in the endless pursuit of territory and wealth. It's a cautionary tale, a reminder that empires, no matter how vast or powerful, are ultimately fragile. They are built on conquest and domination, and they inevitably generate resistance, resentment, and rebellion. The rise of the Huns, the Germanic invasions, the internal strife, they were all consequences of Rome's own actions, its own ambition. The Sasanians, the Persian Empire, faced a similar fate. They reorganized their society, adapted to the changing circumstances, and ultimately threw off Roman domination. The Germanic tribes did the same in the West, adapting to the challenges posed by the Huns and forging their own destinies. So was the fall of the Western Roman Empire a tragedy? Perhaps. But it was also a necessary transformation, a violent but ultimately inevitable process of renewal. Rome didn't simply disappear, it evolved, fragmented, and gave rise to new kingdoms and new cultures. Its legacy lives on not in grand monuments and imperial pronouncements, but in the languages, the laws, and the traditions of Europe. And as we stand here gazing at the ruins of a once mighty empire, we are left with a profound and unsettling question. Are we destined to repeat the mistakes of the past, to build our own empires on foundations of conquest and domination, only to watch them crumble in the face of resistance and rebellion? Is the scent of looted gold still lingering on the winds of history?